Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. It's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, 20 takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, alongside my co-host Tyler, and today we are joined by a very special guest. We have our first professional football player on. Jake is a current professional football player playing the XFL for the New York Guardians. He played college football in Moorhead State, as well as a stint in the AAF playing for the Atlanta Legends. Welcome to the show, Jake Sutherland.
How you doing, guys? Glad to be
Uh,
here.
yeah, we're doing good. Happy to have you on.
Good.
Like we said, you're our first professional football player, so haven't had much success with getting sports other than like hockey and baseball, but it's good to get a football player on. So it's gonna be a fun one, man. Can't wait.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So how have you been? Like, can you like? I know we're in these weird times, but like, how's like training been? Like, are you able to train? Like, how's like the football life on the off season going right now?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, the off season came pretty quickly. But I've actually been fortunate enough to have a couple gyms that were open like during quarantine. They're like privately owned, so I was able to like lift and stuff. And as far as like field workouts, the fields are public, so I was able to go to the field as well. So in that regard, I've been able to like kind of sustain my off-season programming. So I haven't really had any setbacks, minus just being stuck in the house all day, not really able to do anything or like actually work. Um, but other than that, I mean, everything's been good. Everybody around me, my friends and family, are all healthy. So hopefully the same for you guys.
Yeah, and everyone's safe and healthy around here, and it's good that everyone's safe and
Good.
healthy around you. So, because like it's weird, like these times, like since like
Yeah.
the gyms weren't open for a while there, and now they're like
Mm,
limited access. So it's definitely a weird time to be in. So like, have you like
yep.
taken this time to like be with yourself and just like learn about yourself, and like take us through like what you have been doing to like help you prepare for the next season, like overall, like in your head, like physically, like emotionally, like all that.
I mean, I've done like a few things differently. My girlfriend's older sister is a registered dietitian, so I started working with her, like kind of like fine tuning some nutritional stuff, trying to lose a little bit of body fat. So right now I'm a little bit lighter than I usually weigh when I'm in season, which is fine. It weighs pretty easy to put on. Um, so instead of like 255, 260, I'm about 240 right now. And then my girlfriend and I started doing yoga pretty religiously once quarantine started. That helped me a lot with my flexibility, as well as like the mental aspect of things. I feel pretty like mentally in tune, if you will. But other than that, everything's been the same. Still lifting to get stronger and bigger and training to get faster. So, I mean, other than that, it's really been yoga, nutrition that I've kind of focused on since I've had the time to.
Yeah, so you said you're usually about 250, 260 pounds, and then you said
Yep.
now you dropped to about 240. So with you being a tight end, how hard is it to like kind of keep up in that same like weight range since now you apparently dropped off? So when you guys get back into season and stuff, how hard is it to try to get back in that rhythm of staying within that target weight?
It's usually fairly easy. I think my body feels really good right now. Like my joints and everything feel really good at 240. But I think it knows that it can handle like the 255 weight as well. Sometimes 260 just depends on like how much like water I'm losing throughout the day, how much I'm sweating, how many calories and so forth. But I think it's pretty easy for myself. Just because like I have an exercise science background, so I kind of know what it takes to keep weight on. The reason I worked with my girlfriend's older sister is just to kind of like fine tune some things, because I usually have a hard time losing like that football fat, which I wanted to get rid of in the off season and hopefully keep off during the next season whenever we play.
Yeah, yoga definitely does help with that as well. Like,
Yeah.
not just flexibility, but like overall, like as a person, just like losing weight and all that, and like just gaining the like mobility that you need to be an elite football player. So, like, what's your favorite like yoga pose that you've done? Like, there's so many that are super hard, but like there's so many that are super fun to do.
I mean, anything that involves like my hamstrings and hips. I like doing so I've actually incorporated a lot of like the yoga moves that we've learned into like my warm up routines for lifting and field work. So like downward dogs, some like hip movements where I'm moving my hips forward. It's actually a lot of dynamic warm up as well, which is nice. But I mean, literally, I haven't found like a yoga pose that I haven't liked, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yoga is definitely fun. It's underrated. Like
I agree.
Any
Agree.
athlete or non-athlete definitely should do it, and it definitely helps everything feel good for sure.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, so let's get into a little bit of football here. So what made you start playing football? Like, did you try like other positions other than tight end? And like, how old were you when you got into playing the game of football?
So I started with flag football when I was probably 7 or 8. I was playing that in soccer, and then when I was 9, it was my first year of tackle football. It was like junior football, and I played fullback way back when I was 9, so 15 years ago, which is wild. So I started at
Time
fullback.
flies.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I kind of played like a running back and linebacker like up until high school. And then we actually didn't run tight end in high school. So I played like a slot receiver and some wide out and then some outside linebacker as well. I mean, but really what got me into football was just I just probably watched it. Honestly don't even know what got me into football, but I'm sure like I watched it one day with my dad, and then me and him went out and probably like threw a football around a little bit. And then I just kind of fell in love with it. And I've had the same love for it ever since.
So you literally, it's nothing like watching someone just, that amazes you. It's literally just, let's try football, and that's pretty much how you got into it.
I would imagine so. I honestly it feels so long ago. Like I've never actually thought about like what got me into football. I mean, I've always like ever since I can remember like watching football and like studying like NFL players, like when I was like 10, 11, 12, like watching all of them. I always had like favorite players, but I don't know what. I think the game just kind of drew myself to it. I don't really know like if there was like a certain like player that I was like, oh, I want to be like them when I grow up. I mean, obviously I have like some idols, like being a football player that I like kind of like idolize my game off of. But I think it was just like the name football. It just kind of like rang a bell in my head when I was little.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like how you went from there to just getting to where you are now. It's just awesome to
Yep.
see, awesome to hear about as well. So I was doing some research on you, and I read that your senior year of high school, you were actually injured. You only played one game. It's like
Yep.
take us through like the process of like healing, like your mindset, especially because your mindset. Because when you get injured, a lot of players like their mindset just goes whack, and just like all like the negative thoughts come in. Like, what was your take with that, and like how do you like overcome it?
Yeah, so I fractured my ulna in my left arm. I played one half of football my senior year, and it sucked. I mean, I was really depressed after the end of the season, or like not at the end of the season, because I always had like the mindset that I was going to come back that season, like if I had a cast on or something. But my doctor would never clear me. He cleared me literally the week after the season had ended for basketball. And I mean, I was like depressed at first because I knew I was going to miss like some time, like once I found out that I needed surgery. But I always had like that thought in my head, like throughout the entire season until it was too late, that I was going to come back for some amount of games. I never ended up coming back because I wouldn't get cleared by my orthopedic surgeon. But it kind of just like helped me grow a little bit. Like I kind of like focused on school a little bit. I focused on helping my teammates. And honestly, what kind of pushed me a lot was my surgeon telling me that I wouldn't play a college sport. He like after we had found out that I broke my arm through the X-rays, he was like, "Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if you didn't play a college sport because of this," and so on and so forth. And that kind of really drove me through a wall. So I think I focused on that a lot, and that allowed me to stay focused in pursuing like college sports and college football in specific.
What led you to kind of get to that mindset where you weren't ready to give up on yourself yet, even though your doctor and your surgeon were saying it might not be possible for you to play a sport? And what led you to really like grasping that, like, I need to make these changes about school and everything you just mentioned?
So I knew that like obviously I was always like a pretty good student. So I kind of just like tried to become a better student. And like I think academics play a huge role in studying film and stuff. It allows you to kind of focus on that when that comes about. And sorry, what was the first question
Oh, what
before
what
that?
led you to what led you to kind of keep your head in the game,
Oh
whereas
yeah.
your surgeon and your doctor weren't really sure that you could go back out there?
So like the summer going into my senior year, I did a lot of camps, and I had a decent amount of teams kind of scouting me and talking to me. And so I kind of had that in like the back of my head. And my parents would always tell me that it's not over. And I just kind of had this like drive to become a Division I college football player. And I still had that ability like after the fact of like breaking my arm. And I knew that like even though him saying that kind of drove me, it didn't like affect like him saying that doesn't affect like if I play a college football or not. So I think that's what drove me through that.
Yeah, that's like an awesome mindset to have, especially since
Mm-hmm.
like your surgeon says you're not going to play college football, and look where you are now. You played college football, and now you're playing professionally in the XFL. So that's
Yep.
an incredible story. I also read that you were a triple sport athlete in high school. So you did
Mm-hmm.
football, baseball, and basketball. So like,
Yep.
do you think that like helped you like athletically, like, and especially like playing football, like get that conditioning in, and just like overall be like more of an athletic person?
Yeah, I think playing multiple sports has a ton of benefits. I mean, you see all of the kids now trying to like focus solely on one sport, and I think that's cool and all if you have the capability to do that. But I think being a multiple sport athlete's even more important than that, just because you're constantly competitive year round. You're getting like development and certain skills from a different sport that you don't necessarily focus on in another sport. And I just think like the more teammates that you have that are playing multiple sports, like the closer you'll get. And especially in high school, like team camaraderie is one of the most important things. And so like I played sports with the guys that I played football with my entire life. So that was another aspect of like keeping me going when I was injured. And if I didn't play all three sports with them my whole life, I don't know if we would have been that close.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think playing multiple sports is way more beneficial than focusing solely on one.
Yeah, I've been a multi-sport athlete my entire life. Like I play hockey right now. I play baseball right now. I run cross country and track. I played basketball. I played flag football. Like I've done pretty much literally everything. So
Yep.
it really does benefit you. It makes you a better person as well as a better athlete. And I cannot say anything bad about being a multi-sport athlete. It's always super fun, super competitive every week, and like all year round. Like you're being competitive, you're being active, you're not sitting on the couch. So it really is like pretty much all benefits for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So you said you were I said tri-sport athlete in high school. I don't know if this decision was easy or not for you, but what led you to continue pursuing a football career rather than a basketball or baseball career upon high school?
I think what drove me to pursuing football the most is I think I put the most time into it. I've told multiple people this. I think baseball was probably my best like raw talent sport, but I had put so much time into football that I became a better football player because of that. And like I surpassed my level of talent in baseball. And I love the idea of being a Division I football player. I think it just sounded better to me. And I think I was more in love with the game of football at the time as well.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Like the benefits as well probably hit you there. And so going into your first year of college, like you said earlier, you had a ton of different ideas different places you could have gone. So like what drove you to play at Moorhead State?
So after I broke my arm, a lot of my like Division I schools kind of fell off the radar. And Moorhead State was still on the radar for me. They like kept in contact with me. They came and visited me like during basketball season when I was practicing, like all the way from Kentucky. And I went down there and visited it, and it was absolutely beautiful. It's very family oriented kind of atmosphere, and I loved it. The schedule was amazing. Like we traveled all over the country, which was awesome. And I literally just fell in love with it when I visited there. And I visited some other schools too, and they were cool and all, but I didn't get to like the same vibe and feeling that I got from Moorhead.
Yeah, so then you committed to Moorhead and you go there, play Division I football. So like going into your freshman year, like what were some of like the expectations you had going in, and like overall, like how was your first year experience at Moorhead State?
My freshman year was awesome. It was a blast. I had a great time. We were like fortunate enough as like a team that we were kind of like driven towards focusing on academics, so that didn't like slack at all. I knew what I wanted to major in, so I enjoyed studying what I was studying at the time. And like expectations football wise, I really didn't know what to expect. I kind of just went in there and just kind of had the mindset of just kicking ass and hoping that it takes notice. And it did. I started like I think 8 games my freshman year. And me and the other tight end that were at Moorhead State that came in together, we were the only 2 tight ends on the roster. So we kind of had no choice but to like be ready to play as freshmen. And I think we kind of proved that and impressed, I think.
Yeah, I meant to say I love that mentality of yours. Just go out and kick some ass. I think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Was it more? You said you and there was another freshman tight end of yours. Was it more of like a competition between you guys, or was it more of like you guys were trying to strive to make each other better, kind of a competition?
It was pretty much a competition. Like, we were friendly towards each other, but it was pretty much competition, like, up until our senior year. And then some things happened, and I kind of like took over the position. But I loved it because, I mean, we were literally competing at practice, like trying to better each other. And it was honestly probably the best thing for me to get me to this level, because he was a hell of a tight end as well.
Yeah, that's awesome to have a guy like that just to keep pushing you, and like that friendly competitive spirit, like during practices and games, always pushes you and always like gets the best of you, especially like as you keep going up in that development curve. It definitely is like a I don't know what to call it. Like it's it's an effect that it's a domino effect pretty much.
Yeah.
It
There
just
you go. I couldn't think of anything either.
It took me a while, but we got to it. So you had 6 catches for 53 yards your freshman year. So like, what was like that freshman year like for your development process, and like going like throughout like college and then going into the pros after that?
So like my first couple of years, I didn't really like pay attention to like becoming a professional. I just was having fun playing football. I wasn't utilized a whole lot my freshman and sophomore year. And I felt like I could have been as well, used a little bit more. But then I kind of started taking shit more seriously. Which, I mean, I don't know, like, if I was taking stuff seriously, but like I just started kind of like, you know, I could like, I think it was right after like the spring season, like spring football. I had a really good spring camp, and like a couple guys, like, I guess just like walked up to me and were like, yo, you like keep it up, like you make it in the pros and stuff like that. I had a couple coaches tell me that too, to keep working hard. And I think that's what kind of drove me. And then I started getting utilized a little bit more my junior year. And then same thing happened like between junior and senior year, spring ball, and then summer workouts were phenomenal as well. Because I stayed up there in the summer going into my senior year, and I had a pretty good senior year. But I felt like throughout my whole career at Moorhead, I could have been utilized a lot more. But I think I'm always going to think that like everywhere I go, and everywhere I play, it's because it's kind of like the player I want to be. I want to be gassed out like by the time I'm done with the season, basically.
Yeah, there's that kick-ass mentality that I thoroughly enjoy. So
Yeah.
you were also on the special teams, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like,
played,
was that how like you
teams.
like you wanted to be more utilized? Like, is that why you chose to, or maybe your coach decided you to put you on the special teams? Is that why you got more time there?
I don't think so. I think I just kind of like, I had like a knack for special teams. I just kind of enjoyed it. I played both ways in high school. So like playing one way was like kind of weird to me, like starting out in college. So I wanted to get on the field as much as possible. So I just kind of made sure that I would play all special teams, and I played all 5 except field goal block throughout my entire career in college. But like being utilized more, like like on offense is kind of what I like meant as it, like having more catches, more end zone, red zone targets, stuff like that. So I was used a lot in the running game, but like in the passing game, not so much my first couple of years.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you said you were ready to take more offensive snaps in like the passing game. So were you really, really confident in your route running compared to, you know, you said you were putting the running game a lot, so a lot of like run blocking and stuff like that?
Yeah, I kind of like consider myself more of a hybrid tight end. I feel like I can do run blocking and I can run pretty good routes. I feel like that at the time, not as like much. I think I'm at a much higher level than I was in college. But for the competition, I felt like I could have had a lot more targets in the passing game. Like there was one game I played, I think when it was all said and done, special teams and offense, because I think I was the only tight end active at the time and for this specific college game. And it was like I had played over 120 snaps and it was in California and I was dog tired, which I loved, but I think I only had like 4 catches, which kind of like looking back on it, like it kind of made me mad, but at the same time, like it was cool because I was playing that much.
Yeah, that you as long as you're playing a lot, like
Yeah.
you could that other stuff can bypass, but as long as you're getting the time and enjoying it and having fun, like that's all that really matters here.
Yeah. That's kind of like that mindset of like I always want more like out of a game, I guess.
Yeah, I love that mentality along with the kick-ass one. So then going into your sophomore year, you you were awarded for because you took your academics very seriously, especially as like a student athlete. You got to take that as like it's got to be like a top priority. And you were named to the Pioneer Football League academic honor roll. So how awesome was that to be named to that award and show that you're hardworking in both like on the field and in the classroom as well?
I enjoyed it. It was really cool to kind of like get that award. Just because I like knew that I took academics seriously. I wanted to have like a good GPA, like coming out of college. Like I wanted to graduate with honors, which I ended up doing, and just getting that kind of award, like and getting like recognized through the hundreds of football players in the PFL was kind of cool.
Yeah. So how important, like, how often do you preach that academics is everything? Like that everyone should take it seriously, no matter what sport they're in, even if they're in not, even if they're not in a sport. Like how important is academics to you, and like how do you how could you like preach that to everyone?
It's hard like when you're in high school because academics are so generalized. But when you're in college, like I was studying, so I had a better GPA in college than I did in high school. And I did better like test taking in college than I did in high school because I enjoyed what I was studying. So it's hard to like be so passionate about academics in high school because it's so generalized. You may not like most of the stuff you're studying, but if you go to a college and you find something you're passionate about studying, it's easy to kind of focus on academics because you like learning about something that you're passionate about. So that was like a big kicker for me. And I try to kind of tell people that like when they're like asking me about like college and stuff. And as far as like trying to like do good in high school academics is you just kind of just have to stick with it until you get to college.
Yeah, it's especially important to enjoy what you're doing. Like if you're studying something, you got to enjoy it because if you don't, it's gonna suck. Like let's be honest here. Like and like you just have fun with it and just enjoy what you do, and everything will work out after that. So that's
completely agree.
That's my take on it.
Yeah, going back to what you said about higher GPA in college and you were better at test taking and whatnot, was that a direct effect of you saying that you really, really started thinking about focusing more on school after your injury? Because I remember you said that you really started taking it more seriously. So obviously that was your senior year. So that just carried on with you right in college and you just picked up right where you left off, right?
Yeah, I definitely think like that had a little bit of an effect on it. But I think part of the reason why I was a better test taker is because I think I probably just studied better. I had more time to study because you have a little bit more freedom, and I learned how to be manage my time. And I think this like my major that I studied just kind of came natural to me because I enjoyed like fitness and health and stuff when I was in high school, and so I kind of knew already that I was going to study that in college. But I definitely do think like the injury, which kind of forced me to focus on academics a little bit, that kind of translated over to college, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. So then going into your junior year, I have this in my notes. You played in 11 games. You caught 14 passes for 196 yards and 3 touchdowns, while your senior year you went off for 31 catches and 249 yards. It's like, what were those last 2 years like to go like above and beyond like what your like what you planned on doing to just get your name out there? And just was that the time that you started thinking about like going pro?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, it was definitely like after like the spring ball in between sophomore and junior year. That's kind of like when I had that like mindset of like, oh, I could do this at the next level sort of thing. And then once I saw the productivity that I had my junior year, I just wanted more. Even looking at it now, I still wish I would have had more productivity in the passing game, but I was still very productive my junior and senior year. And that's what it just kind of like continued to grow. And then like my mindset of becoming a professional athlete kind of like continued to grow as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so throughout all your years of college football, you had 52 catches and 507 yards. So like reflecting back on like on your college years, what was like the best thing about college football that you learned like overall about like either the game, yourself as an athlete, yourself as a person, just overall like reflecting back on college, like what were your thoughts on that and like of you being like a successful college football player?
Um, I think college football was amazing. I loved every second of it. Um, you always hear about like the stories of like the players that had like very successful careers or like made it to the next level, where there were times where they thought about like quitting because it sucked at times. And I'm sure enough, I've had those thoughts as well when I was in college, just because they kind of put you through hell, but they do it for a reason. They're trying to set you up for success and to see if you can last and if you're resilient enough. And ultimately, if you make it through that and you still love the game, I mean, why not try to make it to the next level? And that's kind of what I'm grateful for college. And obviously, it put me in a position to play at the professional level, which is awesome. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome how like you learned so much throughout your college career and like you use that towards like being a pro. So like going like off college, like going into like the pros, like what
Mm-hmm.
was like the process like to sign like a professional deal and just like training's a lot harder obviously as a professional and like you gotta
Mm-hmm.
train a lot more. So like what was your take on like the training from like college to professional and then like how do you like adapt to being a professional and like living the professional lifestyle?
Um, so after my senior year of college, I was still in school, so I wasn't able to like train like you like hear of those guys training, like where they graduate and they go down to Florida or whatever for however long before their pro day. But I still like I kind of knew what I needed to do, like to get ready for like my pro day and stuff. So I did all that, and I had a pretty good pro day. I had some teams kind of contact me, and then obviously nothing had happened because I haven't had like any NFL stints or anything. It's just been the AAF and the XFL, and that kind of pushed me a little bit further. I kind of studied a little bit more of like what I needed to do. I kind of got into this habit of functional training with my lifting, taking my field workouts more seriously, kind of honing in on those combine like attributes that you need to focus on. And I mean, I've been training. I've had a few like trainers with like speed and agility, but lifting wise, it's all been myself. And I've had like a few speed and agility coaches that have taught me a lot. And I personally don't feel the need to like have like a coach or anything because I know like what I'm doing in my training, which is nice and very helpful. Definitely saves a little bit of money. But kind of like the professional lifestyle is just kind of like it's work. And it's not like at my professional level, it's serious, obviously, because I'm getting paid to play football, but it's not so serious to where like I can kind of like coast in the off season. I would be working right now if there wasn't for COVID. Obviously, like it's not like I'm like stressing for money or anything because like I've made money with the professional football. But it's like I'm still working like a normal human, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I feel that. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so do you think that combining literally everything that you've known from the 4 years and then extra studying for your pro day, do you think that kind of made you like really, really disciplined? And then you're saying like after that, it's a business, but it's not as serious as like most people would take it. So do you think that made you like really, really disciplined?
Yeah. I think I've always been pretty disciplined as like a human, like growing up. I've never really like gone off the deep end, I guess. I've always like been serious about sports. So that's kind of carried through like up until now, which is nice. And like just I think my degree kind of like helped me become disciplined in my programming for like the off season and stuff. As well as like the few coaches that I've had with like speed and agility. So yeah, I definitely think like everything like leading up to this point has like made me more disciplined than I already was for sure.
Yeah, that's an awesome take that you just said there, and like just being disciplined is like very important, especially as an
Mm-hmm.
athlete, and like you just gotta commit to like the training and like being disciplined, like eating healthy and all that. So it's definitely one of the most important things, especially as like a pro athlete.
For sure.
Yeah, so you played for the Atlanta Legends in the AAF. So like,
Mm-hmm.
what was it like playing the AAF and like Atlanta giving you your first shot at pro football?
It was awesome. I enjoyed every minute of it. It was so much fun. I mean, we were living in a hotel with pretty much every person on the team. I became super close with some of the guys, and some of the guys I played with in the XFL as well. Um, and it was unbelievable. Like my first year out, I guess it was my second year, like sort of my second year, I guess 1.5 years out. It was super cool. Like I was super happy and super fortunate to get that opportunity to play at that level. And it was fortunate that they kind of ended abruptly through some legal issues that we have no idea about.
Yeah, but hey, at least you enjoyed your time in Atlanta and had a
Yep.
good first year in the AAF. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where all that really matters and getting that resume out there for
Yep.
other teams to see.
Yeah, so after the unfortunate end of the AAF, you were drafted in the XFL by the New York Guardians. So first of all, take me through all your thoughts of getting a second chance, but then getting drafted to the New York Guardians franchise, the new XFL. How was that like?
I mean, it was even more unbelievable, just because they kind of had that draft aspect. I think it was super cool the way they did that, and it was awesome. It was honestly a surreal feeling, and like getting obviously that other opportunity was also awesome. I knew that I would seize it, and even though we ended short abruptly again, it was an awesome experience. Playing at MetLife Stadium was super cool as well. It was ginormous. I didn't even think it'd be that big, and it was massive. But it was everything I kind of hoped and dreamed as well.
I also
Yeah.
meant to ask you, sorry about that, Jack. I
No,
also
you're
meant to
all
ask
good.
you, what was it like playing with the former legendary coach Kevin Gilbride of the New York Guardians? So how was that like?
It was super cool. That was also awesome. He kind of had like the insight of like what it is to be a professional. I think I learned the most about like being a professional athlete like through the XFL and through him, just because he had all that experience. And he kind of like taught a lot of us about like being a professional, which was really cool. I think that was like one of the biggest attributes I took away from that, like through him. And obviously he kind of had like that Super Bowl championship mindset. He kind of knew what it took as well, which was really awesome.
Yeah. So
I
would you
think we would have
say?
made a run for the
Yeah.
championship if we didn't
Yeah.
get cut.
Because you guys were second place when 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 COVID hit, right? Or were
I
you
think so.
third?
Yeah, I think we were all tied for first in our division. And
Yeah,
I
because
think
you
like
guys were playing unreal and you guys were winning
yeah,
games.
yeah, we were 3-2. I think we ended at 3-2, and I think yeah, we were all tied for first or something crazy like that.
That's awesome. So like take us
Yeah.
through like all like the wins you guys had and like the camaraderie of like the locker room, especially like especially I would imagine that your coach, being the legend he is, like he's a mentor for you guys. So like take us through like all that and like how it all brought you guys together as one whole team.
So like going into the XFL, it was kind of weird because like it was hard to develop that team camaraderie. But like I said, like I played with I think a handful of guys that I played with in AAF, and I was all like we were all pretty close friends, even when the AAF ended. So that was really cool. So like we kind of like had that niche, and then like we kind of drew others in towards us, which was kind of cool. And like obviously Kevin had implemented some things to where like we kind of grew closer as a team, and the locker room celebrations were awesome. The Bud Light Seltzer Lounge was super fun, as you guys all probably saw. And just like every win we had, we kind of just like had more fun playing with each other. And I think that's ultimately like what was going to take us to like through the playoffs. And I honestly firmly believe we would have won a championship if we didn't get cut.
Yeah, you kind of took my thought for my next question was, do you like all the extra gimmicks and new rule changes to the XFL compared to like the NFL, which is a little more on the I'm not trying to say professional side, but it's
Mhm.
very different. Like my first time watching the XFL, I was like, oh my god, like this is so different.
Yeah.
So did you like all the different rule changes and all the little gimmicks that you guys had?
I think for the most part, they all kind of flowed. I think the biggest thing, like the biggest worry about it, like going into minicamp and training camp was like, is it going to kind of disrupt the flow of the game? Which I don't think it did. I think the game still flowed pretty smoothly for like all the viewers, whether you're in like at a game or watching it on TV. As far as the rules, I had gotten kind of like a taste of them before anybody else did because I had participated in the spring league showcase because the XFL was kind of scouting that, and we had implemented some of the rule changes like the kickoffs and kick returns, and we did like the sudden death like soccer shootout style OT, and so honestly it was really cool. I kind of enjoyed it. It was a nice little change of pace, obviously from like a safer aspect side of things. I think it definitely minimizes some issues that you run into, like when you're dealing with like a kickoff, kick return, and like punt returns are always boring because everybody fair catches. So they kind of like getting rid of that fair catch or not getting rid of it, but like almost forcing the punt team to kind of slow down a little bit. I think helped a lot as well.
Yeah,
I think it definitely helped like the excitement part of the game when it was like missing in special teams for a while.
yeah, absolutely. And my first game watching a XFL game, like I fell in love with it. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
super awesome to watch. Like especially with like all the new rule changes, like Tyler was saying, and all the
Mm-hmm.
gimmicks. Would you say like that was like one of your favorite parts of playing in the XFL? Is like all the different rule changes, the gimmicks, and like how different it is from the NFL?
I think it was one of my favorite parts, yeah. But I think just like overall, my favorite thing was just like being a professional football player and playing in the XFL. But I definitely think that was a, like a favorited aspect of mine was kind of like using those new rules and like actually playing in games with them. I think that was awesome. And it was cool to see, and it was kind of cool to see the positive feedback that they got through the 5 games.
Yeah, we already talked about how you were really adapting that professional mentality from your coach, Kevin Gilbride. But what about the other players? I mean, these were former NFL players, most notably, who were in this league. And specifically for you guys, I know him as Oakland Raiders quarterback, Matt McGloin was your
Yep.
guys' quarterback. So what was it like being around those guys who had, like, the top-notch professional experience, and especially for you, who you were out there with a guy who competed in the NFL at a very high level for a couple of years?
It was awesome. I mean, I enjoyed it. I tried to learn everything I could from those types of players that we had. And like one thing I actually kind of noticed when I was in the XFL, like comparing the AAF and the XFL. I know it's not too difficult, just because they're like the same kind of spring developmental league. But I kind of noticed that like the XFL players that have been in the NFL already kind of took the XFL a lot more seriously than the AAF. Most of like the NFL veteran guys kind of like just kind of said the AAF was like more of just like their next like stepping stone back to the NFL. That's all they could really focus on and talk about. But like during the XFL season, like all anybody was focused on was the XFL. Like none of the guys like not that I even like heard them like talk about it. I'm sure there were some guys that like had that thought process about the XFL too, but like at the guys that I were around, they kind of had the mindset that like the XFL was what they're doing right now, and they didn't really focus on like playing in the NFL next, even though that could have came for some of them. They didn't really like voice their opinion about that, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool that like they're just focusing on that season, the XFL, instead of like thinking about like the going to the next level, which everyone wants to do. But like it just gives that personal like touch even like further, since you're just focusing on the league you're in and just focusing on dominating throughout the league, especially as like with like all like the players that have played in the NFL. It's just I bet it's just awesome to learn from all of them and just get like the inside look from like a former NFL player still playing at a high level professional football league. Yeah, so there are some weird like gimmicks that like we were saying earlier, but like did you enjoy like the mic'd up version, the when they mic'd up the players and like the sideline reporters like during like in game, like just trying to talk to you, like especially after like a play or something like that?
Oh yeah, I think it was pretty cool for like some of the players that experienced it. I'm sure it was kind of probably pretty annoying for some as well. But I honestly didn't even like notice it. I think that was more of just like adding excitement for fans. Because like being on the field during the game, I didn't really notice like any of that stuff. So I don't think it was like distracting or anything. I don't think it like hurt or helped like the game. I don't like, as long as it didn't disrupt the flow of the game, like it didn't disrupt like the viewers like perspective. I think it was cool. I definitely think it's kind of cool to have like sideline reporters like after a big play, like immediately talking to the person that made that big play to kind of like see like their excitement and their joy. I think that's really cool for the viewers.
Yeah, it was really cool and interesting for everyone. Like I enjoyed it, and just going into like the brotherhood of like football, like especially like your team was doing so good. Your team was a hot team there for the 5 games you guys played. So like what was like that brotherhood like, and like just being in the locker room and just enjoying coming to practice every day, playing games? Like what was that like?
It's literally just like, I mean, not the same as high school, but I kind of want to like compare it to like high school football, because like at the end of the day, we're all like the same. We're all just teammates. Like none of us are really like that much better than one person. And it was just honestly like that's the only way to describe it. It's like a brotherhood. It's super awesome. Like we all have the same mindsets. We all have the same job necessarily. So it's really cool. And it's honestly like makes it that much better. Like the guys that I had played in the 2 leagues with, and plus some others, like I like talk to most of them almost every single day. I was supposed to go to a couple of their weddings like this summer that were unfortunately canceled because of COVID. So like it was awesome to kind of like meet some of those guys and become like as close of friends as I did with them.
Yeah, unfortunately, speaking of COVID, that's unfortunately how the XFL took its abrupt end, was that COVID took it out. What were your initial thoughts for that? I'm sure they were not positive, but what were your initial reactions about, unfortunately, the XFL coming to an abrupt end after you guys were doing really, really well with ratings, and the level of play was fantastic?
Yeah, I mean, I, for one, like hated it. I've kind of like taken a step back from that like sort of view. Like I know that it's a pandemic and I know it's serious and I know people are dying from it. But at the time, my mindset was, let us play. Like I didn't want to like end our season. We were playing really good. We were coming up against Houston like that week. And so it sucked, especially because it was the second year in a row for myself and a few others. But looking back on it now, I'm sure it was probably the right decision. And obviously now coming up with The Rock purchasing the league and it hopefully getting back up and running soon, I think it was the right decision. So that was kind of like my mindset at the time, but my mindset's definitely changed a little bit.
That was my next question is, how do you feel about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson purchasing the XFL? Like, I was completely blindsided, but so hyped about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be awesome. Kind of having the guy that's kind of in most of our shoes, he was in most of our shoes at the time because he had gone through college, had some NFL tryouts, went to the CFL, got hurt, his career ended, unfortunately. But I'm super excited about him owning the league. I think it's going to be cool. I mean, everything The Rock touches turns to gold practically. So I think it's going to be an awesome thing for the XFL.
Yeah, so that's just awesome that Dwayne The Rock purchased the XFL and like trying to get the season going next year. So like, what are your expectations going into next year? Despite everything going on right now, just think about like the positives. Like, what are some of your expectations of going into next season?
I mean, I hope like my expectation is then to have a season kind of like around the same time, hopefully, but you never know. And I think they should keep kind of like the structure the same. I think they should have like the same flow of the game, just because it's not the NFL, it's the XFL, and it's kind of their own brand of football. And so my expectation is to hopefully be playing football here in September, hopefully 5 months or so. But obviously we have no idea. Everything's kind of up in the air for that. But hopefully playing football soon.
Yeah, we for sure wanna see you playing on TV, and we'll be like, hey, we know that guy, and had the bragging rights there. So that can't wait for the XFL to start again. So it'll definitely be interesting with COVID, like see where COVID is going to go for the next 5 months, and hopefully you guys will start on time in the next 5 months or so.
Hopefully, I'm praying.
Yeah, so I have a few more questions for you. It's pertaining to football and like some that are just random questions. So
sounds good.
Let's shoot them your way. So, what's your favorite thing about practice and your least favorite thing about practice?
My favorite thing about practice is probably the game prep. Like it's getting prepped for a game. And my least favorite thing about practice is probably that there is so many of them, especially before the first game. I mean, obviously, like I have that mindset of like practice is more important than the games, because once practice is easy, the game should be easier. But it's kind of hard to kind of get out of like the feeling of like, oh my God, when are they going to end, sort of thing. But I've kind of shifted out of that mindset. I had that mindset very heavily in high school. And like going into my last few years of college, I kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah, and practicing a lot will definitely take a toll on your body. So that
definitely does.
That's definitely hard, but hey, you're putting the work and it's gonna be a fun season when the games come rolling. So that's all that really matters.
One thing that's my favorite and my least favorite is probably the ice bath.
Yeah, the ice baths, I'm a huge ice bath guy, and like they definitely relax. But they're relaxing, but like when you get in, like it sucks. Like especially since it's so cold, and like I'm still like bundled up, and it's brutal. So going on the next question, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food? That's tough. Probably a burger or pizza, to be honest.
Hey, that's mine
too. Like a steak. Yeah. Pretty simple.
Yeah, those are mine too. Maybe not the steak,
Yeah.
but chicken for sure. Like chicken burgers and pizza.
I
I
eat
could eat
so much
that any
chicken.
day.
I just kind of like it. If I
Really?
get like a chance to eat nothing but chicken, then I'm gonna have like a burger or some pizza or something.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. That's pretty funny. So, what's your favorite type of music?
Favorite type of music, kind of like in the mood that I'm in. So like if I'm lifting, like in a gym, I kind of like the metal / hard rock sort of aspect. Um, I kind of like that like pregame a little bit too. I have a very like eclectic taste in music. So I like metal, country, rap, like EDM sort of stuff, like pretty much everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of hard to like put my finger on some like a favorite sort of music.
Yeah, definitely when you're warming up and lifting, you definitely gotta be
Yeah.
pumping the metal and the rock. That's for sure.
Oh
Just
yeah.
the hype,
The
the hyped
yeah, I guess
pump up music
the
is the
crazy music
best.
going.
And yeah, my final rapid fire question is: are you a pregame napper or no?
No, no,
Yeah, it
I
just
don't like
depends.
napping before games.
Yeah, it depends on the day for me, for like what I
Hmm.
do. But I generally like to take naps, but it just depends on like
Yeah,
what I got going that day and like how the day's going. It's just a
I'm actually
total.
not really a nap person in general. I've never like been like a big napper. I don't know why. I just once I wake up, I'm pretty awake.
Yeah, I never used to be a napper, and then college hit me, and it's much
Hmm.
needed some days.
Yeah, I took a few naps in college, but I've still never been like a big like nap kind of guy.
Yeah. So Tyler, do you have any last minute questions for we let Tyler go or Jake go?
Yeah, no, I got a few of them. So
Yeah, before we let you go, Tyler too.
uh you mentioned that you guys were scheduled to play the Houston Roughnecks before the COVID
Yep.
break ended, and the Houston Roughnecks were the cream of the crop in the XFL. Like they were going off week after week. You heard about them and
Yeah.
PJ Walker lighting it up. What was your guys' mentality going into that game, playing a guy who was literally on fire and that team who was on fire?
Um. So like, I think as a team, we just had the mindset that it was the next game. I don't think like you always hear like coaches saying like your next game is your most important game. I think that's kind of the mindset that we had going into it. And from like an offensive side, like we kind of just like prepared for a normal defense. So I don't think their defense was all that crazy. But from like the other side of the ball, I mean they definitely had a lot to handle with PJ Walker. So I think they kind of had like a different mindset than the offense. But collectively as a team, I think we just kind of treated it as the next game.
My next question for you was, oh no, don't tell me I just blanked out right now. All right, I better edit this out, Jack. The one that I do have in the top of my head is, I don't think you mentioned this earlier. Can you give us a little background information? Like, where did you grow up? What were your favorite sports teams growing up?
So I'm originally from Michigan. I'm currently living in Michigan with my girlfriend as well. I loved all Detroit teams, Lions, Pistons, Tigers. Not a big hockey guy, sorry, but
Interesting.
I never actually like learned how to ice skate. I lived on a lake my whole life too, which is weird. Um, I know it was super weird. But yeah, Michigan, born and raised, living here right now as of now. Hopefully, football takes me somewhere else, but
Yeah, that's awesome. We gotta change that. We gotta get you into hockey and into skating. So
I mean, I'll watch it, but like,
yeah,
I don't know.
That's
I
yeah,
also
just
really
never got
interesting
into it.
too. That's
yeah.
also really interesting too, since you're from Detroit, and I mean the Red Wings have been
Yeah.
big for
I
how
mean,
many years?
I've always liked the Red Wings, but like I've only been to like a couple games. I've probably been to like 300 Pistons games and probably 50 Lions games. So like, but like, I think my parents had told me like at one point they were gonna teach me how to ice skate, and then like they both had like injuries at some point. My mom used to do Irish dancing, my dad had played some like rec basketball and stuff and softball and stuff, and he had tore his ACL, and then she had torn her Achilles. And then like I think I like probably just got into basketball or something before that, and they were like, I'll enjoy basketball, and then they just never taught me how to ice skate.
And that's awesome. Just
Hey Jack.
yeah, go
I
for it,
finally,
Tyler.
I remembered my other question. You briefly mentioned, I believe it was when you were younger and first starting to get into football a little bit and playing as well. You were watching maybe specific players. Can you jot some of the specific players down in your head that you were kind of studying and some that you like idled and looked up to?
So when I played like running back, fullback when I was younger, up until like my junior year of high school. And I loved Jerome Bettis. I loved Calvin Johnson, kind of like getting into like my later years. I think honestly, like those two, like I loved watching. I liked watching Marvin Harrison too. Just kind of like those like mainstream players that you hear about like in the 2000s. Adrian Peterson when I got older. I think that was like really about it. But now like I try to like study and kind of like frame my game off of like George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Gronkowski, like back in a few years ago, and kind of like that. Now that's like pretty much all I watch are mostly tight ends.
Yeah, those are some great names you just put out there, and you don't really hear about. I haven't heard about Calvin Johnson in a while, the Megatron,
Yeah.
but I love that nickname. And
Lord, does Detroit miss him right now?
Yeah, I can only imagine. Tyler, do you have any other questions?
I think I got them all.
Yeah, so Jake, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to come on the podcast, come on the show, just talk some football, talk random shit with us, and we really appreciate your time, and we want to wish you the best of luck going in the next season, and we'll be watching you on TV.
Sounds good. Appreciate you having me, guys. I had a blast.
Yeah, me too. We did too. So thank you again, and have a nice rest of your night.
Have a good one.